guys, welcome back to my channel. This is another speed build that I'm doing in Newcrest for my series for renewing Newcrest. I really enjoy these. They're built in the same area, so maybe when I'm doing this you'll see the last one that I built in the background. Right there, back there, you can kind of see it. So in this area I wanted to kind of stick with the rustic themes. You can see that the game automatically put in like a little rustic skating rink over on the side. So all these houses here I want to kind of keep in that old rustic style, reclaimed a little bit, mostly woods and stone, things like that, to really give that kind of feel and that vibe to this area. The next build I do, I'm not sure will be in Newcrest. It might be in another area, although I love this area and I have a lot of ideas for it. I might try to find a new style maybe on the other side of Newcrest and try something different. I normally don't like modern houses. I'm not that type. I was raised in a very small town, in a very southern town, that, you know, this is where my style and my aesthetic I think comes from, is that I was raised in a small town and have always been around houses like these that are a little bit older, but, you know, well maintained and very modern on the inside, but the outside keeps like that old world charm, and I'm a huge fan of that. So I think I'll try something different next time, maybe go on the other side of Newcrest and build a very modern house, you know, sleek lines and things like that. But I really enjoyed building this because I was going based off a picture I saw on Pinterest when I was looking for ideas for rustic builds, and they had those wooden beams that are at the top of houses, and you can't really add that architectural detail into The Sims, but I think this, setting that roof into the roof line, was a cool way to go about it. I think I really enjoyed the way that it turned out. I love the look of it. I love the kind of architectural interest it kind of gives the house. I'm a huge fan, and I really like this area of Newcrest. The family that I made to live here when I was playtesting the house has kids, and you can see they have that skating area, and then a little bit behind that they have some jungle gyms. So it's definitely a family friendly neighborhood, and so I wanted to build, you know, a proper family house, not just like a one bedroom, to go on this little bit bigger plot of land. Yeah, so I really enjoyed building this. It was a little bit difficult. This video I think gets pretty long just because of how much kind of went into the backyard and went into decorating each room. So I give you most of me doing the exterior, but then when I started editing the interior, I was getting annoyed with myself. I honestly was. I was like, God, what are you doing? I would like play something down and then go into like 8 angles and look to see how it looked. And as I was editing it and I speed up the footage, I was just like, this is giving me a headache. And so the exterior I think will give you a little bit of a headache, and I try to stop doing that for the interior just so that it's not so fast paced and just going everywhere, because I literally was. And when you're doing it, you don't really notice. So I think the next video I'm going to have to be a little bit better about that. Like, make sure that I'm not just flailing all over the place when I'm trying to make a video. Because I just build like the way that I normally used to build without recording it. And I'm just like, oh, I can look at this from all angles. I can give myself a headache because it doesn't matter. But when I sat down and recorded it, it really did matter. And I also think it's weird because, I don't know, for some reason I feel like the cameras have been glitching a little bit on The Sims 4 recently, and so they don't stay in the same place, or they don't zoom in or out right. And so there are moments even on the outside of when I'm building that you'll notice like I zoom in or out way too fast, and it really wasn't just something that I was doing. It was just the way that maybe my mouse is too sensitive, or maybe the cameras are off. I'm not sure. I'll have to see if I can work on that for the next build. But yeah, for this build, I think I love the inside of it, and I love how the inside turned out, but honestly, my favorite part is the outside. It's just, I think because I grew up, again, like in a small town, and most of my activities and everything were to be outdoors and to play outside. I'm very big on making sure that the outsides of houses are very representative of what living in a small town is. People put a lot of focus into their backyards. I know even now my parents put huge efforts on their landscaping, on their backyard, and now that they have grandkids, like we have little soccer goals out there for the grandkids, and we have their bikes and all their play equipment is outside, and our porch is huge, and the backyard, the balcony that's out on our second floor on top of our basement is really big, so the kids can play out there. And so I think that that's very interesting when it comes to my builds, because I think I base a lot off of that. And in the South, these wraparound porches are also very, very common. And also, I think because it was in maybe What I Hate About You, that movie where Julia Stiles is like sitting on the railing in her house, and it's like that huge wraparound porch. And I just remember loving the way that looked and the idea of that. So wraparound porches are one of my favorite features in like these older rustic southern homes, so I kind of wanted to add that in there, which is so unique because I've been living in New York for 5 years now and literally still love old school architecture. Like I love the buildings here and I love the architecture here, and it's definitely opened my eyes to something new and something different, but I think the South plays a much bigger impact on my life. So yeah, I'm showing you a little bit of the trees and things that I pull out from the debug gallery, but I kind of skipped a little bit past that. But you saw most of the foliage that I pulled out, and then I skipped once I started pulling furniture out, so you can see most of the furniture that's around. I'm still having a little trouble with roof lines, so that was something that I've been trying to work on. I did enjoy how this one turned out, but again, I think for me, like, building roofs is the hardest thing here because it's just so hard to get them to overlap well and to do all sorts of things. So it was difficult. You'll see a couple of the things that I pulled out, like this gate that's right in front of the steps. And I love it, and I love the way that it looks in the game. However, even though it's pulled off the debug menu, when I was playtesting, nobody walks in through those front steps to the front door. They walk around the side steps and go to the front door. It does not bother me when I'm playing the game that they don't use those steps because I like the way that it looks. But if it does bother you, there's just a gate right there that's in front that you can remove. But if it doesn't bother you, then it's not an issue. And then again, when I was playtesting in the kitchen, there's 2 doors that lead out to the back patio. One that leads out the back to the back stairs, and one that leads out the back to the barbecue area. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes when they're going into the kitchen, they'll go outside to come in through the kitchen, and I'm not sure why, because it's not always, it's just random. So I'm not sure what that's about. And again, it doesn't bother me very much, so I left it. This awning, I think, is one that I want to say is in Cats and Dogs, like in Brynolton Bay, that expansion pack. When you go out to the piers, there's I don't know. I know where it is exactly in Brindleton Bay, where you see like this square awning out by maybe like a restaurant or something. I wish it was in different colors so that you could play with it in different colors, but it's not. It's only in white. So that does, in my mind, it looks a little out of place because it meant that everything had to be white. I wanted to keep everything else rustic looking, so even like the rocks around the pool are more, you know, you see I pulled out more like the blue-gray rocks, but then I ended up with these. And I wanted to keep that whole like brown toned style, but the pool area right here looks a little different. But in the end, like, I like the overall way it looked. It looked like it was a new addition that they had added onto the house, so I didn't mind it so much. And then the pool is my absolute favorite. It took me a little while to figure out how to make it look like these steps were going into the pool, and I first started looking at using the steps from, I think these are the steps from Jungle Adventure, and then those bricks previously were also from Jungle Adventure, but it just didn't look good, so I ended up just stacking those stairs on top of each other and just turning it around. Yes, your sim does swim in it, and with the rocks around the outside, they do sometimes sit in the rocks. If it bothers you, then you can remove it, but again, it doesn't really bother me. They don't do it all the time, so it doesn't really bother me. And then I put these stones at the bottom of the pool as well. So when I was playtesting, you can see like the bubbles and the steam that rise out of the pool is sometimes a little bit distracting, but it's so cool when they swim in there. It looks like they're in like a sauna or a jacuzzi. And then I shifted to nighttime because I wanted to kind of look at how the backyard, because it's the most prominent feature and it's where they are a lot at night times, I wanted it to be where you could see what was happening at night. So I go through and I try to figure out like what lights I want out there at night to kind of brighten the whole area up. I really love the way that it looks at night. It's very, very pretty. And it's very nice. I thought they wouldn't be able to go down these steps around to the front of the pool deck, but they can, so that's not an issue at all. And then again, I love this little barbecue area back here. It's very nice. Very cute. These photos, I love the way that this looks with like the photos going up the stairs. I think that it's very, you know, HGTV type of thing to do. I ended up changing them because I did make them smaller, and then I realized that they're the paintings from the vampire pack, and so they change, they like shift, and so I wanted to not have them shift and be weird. And also when they shift, they don't shift into the smaller size, they shift into like something that's bigger than the frame. So it was weird, and I had to get rid of them and put different paintings there, and that was kind of difficult to figure out what to put there. I'm maybe going to have to figure out if I can download paintings from the gallery. But yeah, and then so I made this little balcony overlook area. I did change this in the final version after I was test playing it, and I think I changed up the kids' room a little bit to add a bathroom. They're not huge changes, so I didn't go back and add them in at the end of the video. But instead of making like that L-shaped balcony, that square that I just put all the way across. One, because it looked weird, and two, because I didn't notice like it's basically like a floating chandelier. And then this area, I didn't want it to just be unused space, so I made a little skylight to go here, but it actually ended up turning into like the kids' playroom attic storage type area. It's a little catch-all of everything else, so you can kind of use that however you see fit. I thought if they didn't have kids, it could be a sauna. I mean, you can do a lot of things with that area. It depends what you're into. But yeah, so furnishing this house took such a long time because I spent a lot of time twirling around the whole place trying to figure out what looked good. And two, just because like I love creating these really large houses, but decorating them and making it look intentional is very difficult, because I don't want it to just seem like a stylized home. I want it to seem like there's a story and then there's a purpose to everything, because I want the family to kind of have intentionality when they live there, and you know that this is this family's house and it's not just random things in a random place. Right now I'm using that red shelf. I'll put the link for the red shelf in the description box below and a tutorial of how to use it, because I have it here right now, but I learned properly how to use it kind of towards the end of the build, and even then I didn't really use it properly. So a lot of what I cut out, if you see any like choppy cuts, is literally me just trying to figure out how to use that shelf and failing miserably at it. I mean, it was a disaster. It was like 10 minutes of me just like putting things on the shelf, taking it off, putting things on the shelf, taking it off, and it just like going nowhere. So I'll put the video that I ended up using and really liking that helped me figure out how to properly use it. So I did the front area. I have a little hall closet, and I did the laundry room. When I downloaded the laundry pack, I didn't think I'd like it. I didn't think I would be into doing laundry in The Sims. However, I really, really enjoy it. Not enjoy it, but it adds an interesting dimension to gameplay, because it kind of lets you have more of a story when you're doing it, especially if you're trying to do something that has a history and a background to the house and to the area. So I wanted to kind of incorporate that. Like, this bathroom is probably the oldest bathroom in the house. It was probably this way when the house was built, and they never really got around to changing the guest room bathroom. But their bedroom they updated, the kitchen they updated, except for maybe the appliances. But like, I wanted to kind of give the house some character, and that I think that's one of my favorite bathrooms as well. It's so very pretty and so very nice. And then when I created the family that lives here, it really lent well to the story that I was trying to tell, which is that in my mind, this family, it's a mom, a dad, the mom's mother, and then they have 2 kids. They have a child and a toddler. And the grandmother lives with them because the dad is just not very involved with his kid's life. He's a little bit absent. His career is politician, and then the mom is in the astrospace career. I'm going to say she's an astrophysicist because she's very brilliant. She's very creative, and she's always had this desire since she was a kid. Like, when her mother and father asked her when she was a kid, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was always like, I want to be an astronaut. And that childlike wonder that she has never really left her. And her mother is a scientist, so she has the intelligence, definitely, but she also has this very impulsive, childlike nature that has also not really left her. And when she met her husband, he was an activist, and she really loved that about him, how passionate he was, how driven he was. And then as he started getting more into his political career and choosing what he supported, he left that activism and started drifting more away from that into like a very political career. And it's definitely made them drift apart a little. They don't have the best of marriages. They're not as connected as they once were. And she's definitely more in touch with her kids and their lives than he is. Although they have 2 sons, and the sons love their father, especially the older child. He honestly, like, even before he was going through a phase, like, his dad would leave and go to work, and when he came back, like, the kid, no matter what he was doing or where he was, would run outside and have like that little excited bubble over his head when his dad got home. Like, he's very, very close to his father. And it's so interesting to like watch your Sims have character, and a lot of that I think has to do with some of the mods that I have in the game. Like, I have meaningful stories, and I also think I have better romance in the game, and so you can either have, you know, really good relationships or really bad relationships that suffer. And so I think it makes gameplay more interesting because it feels like your Sims have a little bit more personality and more driving them than just like their baser instincts. So yeah, the older one is very close to his dad, but again, the dad is very much into his political aspirations, and the mom still is very much like who she was when she was younger. She's still very idealistic, and so they've definitely grown apart. But again, like, she married him because she fell in love with him, and she still is in love with him. And so I don't know, I get so invested in them, and I literally only create characters so that I can have families to play test the entire lot. And then as I'm playtesting and taking pictures and doing everything, I get so freaking invested. So invested. Like, I kept them having a baby room, and initially my thought was that the character that I would pick, I would just get someone off the gallery that was pregnant. And then I ended up not doing that. I ended up just having them have a kid and a toddler. And the idea was kind of that the younger toddler, this was his baby room, and the mother kind of in her mind was like, no, I definitely want to have another kid. She, you know, she can feel that distance from her husband, and she doesn't want that. Like, she wants to be close to him, and so she in her mind is like, I'm going to keep this as a baby room, and we're going to have another kid, and we're going to fix our relationship. And poor girl, she's just so delusional about her life. And so, yeah, she moved the toddler into the son's room. And when you look at the room, like, you can tell that this is her older son's room. Like, most everything is his. Like, he has his desk in there, and he has, when I was playtesting, I added like void critter stuff and stuff all over the wall. So when you download the final version, you'll see a few of the changes that I made when I added the bathroom into the corner. But overall, like, the room is definitely like the older boy's room, and the little toddler just kind of gets shoved in there because he has nowhere else to go. He just has his little corner of the room, and that's pretty much it. Alright guys, so that's the build. Make sure you like the video and subscribe down below, and my origin ID will be at the end so you know where to download it. So hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments or any ideas for future builds or things you want to see or areas you want me to build in, let me know.